Yo, hey, what's up guys? We got finally information about the upcoming fusion for Halloween, and we got a little bit of information already in the game. That's what they came out. I'm gonna not read out all of that. We are particularly having one line in our mind right now, and that's what they had to say. Here's a sneak peek at what's coming. A Halloween deck of fate, a nightmare summon pool event, and a chance to fuse a scarily good legendary champion, Gretel. So we know Gretel is our fusion, and I already do know what is her kit and all that, about that in a bit, but I also do know that she has a partner. And that partner will probably be available in the deck of fate. Can't really promise it, but it sounds like in the deck of fate you're getting that partner in crime. And also in the Nightmare Summon pool event. Of course, he's probably be covered in there too. Probably not Gretel. But what we do right now is we're gonna check out all the skills and everything what they have to do. And also we kind of reveal the name of the new guy. Maybe you already know it, Gretel. And yeah. So here we are. We got Gretel Hagbane. And that is her kit. The first thing I'm gonna watch at all the time when I see a new kit is first of all, what are they based and which kind of affinity are they? So she is red affinity, attack based. So in my head, before I even read the skills, anything, she needs to hit really, really hard, or else she is not that great. Or maybe she got something in her kit. That's what we're gonna find out now. But first of all, kind of attack based guy or girl, then they need to hit really hard. What is the A1 gonna do? Attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. That is nice. If Hansel Witchhunter, yeah, that's the name of the other guy. It is Hansel and Gretel. So again, if Hansel, I will just call him Hansel instead of the whole thing. If Hansel is on the same team, attacks all enemies, instead has a 20% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense on all enemies for 2 turns, also places an extra hit against enemies under any buffs. So that could basically be a good combo, decreased defense and a chance when they go together that they hit everybody. That is maybe nice, depends on the multiplayer. Again, on the end we don't know how hard it hits at the moment, but her own thing, attacks one enemy and a 60% chance of placing a decreased defense, it's also kind of okay-ish. It's not the worst, not the best, but yeah, it is how it is. So A2 attacks one enemy 4 times. That will be on a 3-turn cooldown, I assume. Yes, 3-turn cooldown. So again, attacks one enemy 4 times. The first hit will ignore 10% of the target's defense. The second hit will ignore 15% of the target's of the defense, and the third hit will ignore 25% defense, and the fourth hit will ignore the third hit is gonna ignore 20%, and the fourth hit is gonna ignore 25%. So it basically stacks up from hit to hit to hit. The first hits are not as crazy as the last one, but again, we don't know the multiplayer, so could be nice, could be not. If this attack kills an enemy, resets cooldown of these skills and fills the champion's turn meter by 50%. It's not too bad, but we got other skills when you kill one that you actually get an extra turn. Okay, we don't get the skill by itself reset, so we have to find out. It's kind of looking good when it's hitting hard. If it's not hitting too hard, it's basically not that good, to be honest. A3 attacks all enemies, decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 25%. Well, it is okay. You need that champion in accuracy to actually get it done. So I don't know if I would on the end or not. Depends on the passive and everything. If Hansel is on the same team, decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 50% instead. That is more juicy. This effect cannot be resisted, so no accuracy when you have Hansel in there. To be honest, not the worst thing in the world. It sounds usable. It depends on how hard she hits and all that, but that skill sounds kind of usable. And it is on a 3-turn cooldown too, so really reliable. Like 4-turn cooldowns these days are not the thing anymore, but 3 turns are. So let's talk about the passive. Fills this champion turn meter by 50% when enemy is granted an extra turn. So Rhoduses and all that. Keep in mind you won't cut in, but she is more likely to go next if there's some source of an extra turn, maybe in arena, if you go in there and someone takes an extra turn. I'm not familiar too many bosses that take an extra turn, so we can gain turn meter out of there. Okay, maybe in Hydra that one head, I think it's an extra turn, or maybe it's just turn meter increased to 1000 or something. But it looks like an extra turn when that one head takes two turns at the same time, so you kind of get a really nice juicy turn meter increase. If Hansel is on the same team, also fills the turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy is granted an extra turn. I think they mean Hansel get also 50%. Okay, yeah, it kind of depends what his kit on the end is and stuff. So, an active skill, if Hansel is on the same team and is killed by the enemy, instantly activates Sacred Ritual skill? Which one was it? Attacks all enemies, decreases the turn meter of all. Yeah, there could be some synergy that actually could be viable. Like, yeah, probably more in arena than here, like in PvE, but overall, it looks like a kit that you can use when you just have decent multiplayers, you know, like when the multiplayers are not there, she's probably nothing, to be honest. It's all about the multiplayers again. But now let's take a look at Hansel. Attack-based legendary, blue affinity. So again, for me, he needs to have something super special in his kit, or just basically hit really hard because you are attack-based, and that's what you actually should do as an attack-based. There's no other meanings. Like if you are defense-based, you can still have like increased defense and all those things, and you should be kind of okay. But on an attack-based one, I just want them to hit hard. They're probably not gonna give you so much buffs, or else they would probably be a support champion. So what is he doing? A1, attacks one enemy. Has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. If Gretel Hagbane, I'm just gonna call it Gretel, is on the same team, attacks all enemies instead, has a 25% of placing a 25% weaken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Also places an extra hit on enemies under any debuffs. So if he hits really hard and they go together, there could be really maybe a good chunk on damage output. But kind of what I don't like too much is when they go together, they have lesser chance of applying the debuff they actually wanted. Like right on the top, you have 50% when he goes by himself. And when they go together, it changes to an AoE, but it's just 25%. So I really don't like that too much, but kind of depends on the multiplayers again. So A2, attacks one enemy 2 times, will ignore shield and unkillable buffs. Yes, decent. Maybe stone skin in there and it would be amazing, but not seeing too much about shield and unkillable, where it like maybe in PvP sometimes a super counter for Leorius, for example, then you could bring him, okay, could be okay. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. That's more what I like to see. Like, yeah, that is basically, does Rhodus ignore block damage? I think he does, but it's kind of a Rhodus kind of a scenario. But he attacks 2 times, so that is actually more viable against UDKs and all that. So it's kind of okay, not the best thing in the world. So next skill. Attacks all enemies, will ignore 15% of each target's defense. Also increases the cooldown of 1 random skill on each enemy by 2 turns. That means that one of the skills of the enemies will get a cooldown by 2. That effectively means if, for example, a attack-based guy loses his skill, he cannot use his skill 1 time, but when he comes back around the next time, then he can basically use his skill. So effectively for me that means kind of random skill, where a block active skill for 1 turn would be better for you if you have the block active skill for 1 turn instead of that for 2 turns. Because yeah, I don't know, I'm not too sure about 1 skill, and some people have like amazingly high skills like an arbiter or something, and Not too sure about that one. But if Gretel is on the same tier, we'll ignore 30% of each target's defense. Instead, we'll also increase the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns. Instead, this cooldown increasing effect cannot be resisted. So when Gretel is in there, we get something. It is better. But what is that? Maybe I'm a little bit wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that means you basically have your skill ready, then it gets decreased by 2. Then when you take, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's better than I think. I think the by himself attack is not so effective. Maybe the whole block active skill is kind of wrong. I have to think about it again. But when they go together, it's kind of decent. Like, not too shabby, not too shabby. It cannot be resisted and all that. But you need both again to make it actually work. So, yeah, it's kind of juicy. Maybe not. We have to test it out. But let's talk about the passive. Most of the time, champions, passives. Those are the most important about them. Then those skills make them extra juicy. Reflects all fear and true fear debuffs from this champion on the attacker. On this champion, like it sounds okay about in Hydra. Fear and true fear are not applied too often in the game. I don't know if you need accuracy to do that. If you do, that is especially bad. Like just reflecting the thing, maybe you can kind of cleanse it off, but reflecting is still dependable on accuracy. So I don't know too much about his single target, like when he's alone on the board without Gretel. But if Gretel is on the same team, also reflects all fear and true fear debuff placed on Gretel back to the attacker. So 2 people in a Hydra scenario out of 6 would be fine against the blue head. Maybe there is more situations in Arena where you should get true feared and I don't face them too often, but I don't, so I don't know too. It's not that great, to be honest. It's okay-ish. So if Gretel is on the same team and is killed by the enemy, instantly activates that skill right here. Which one is it? Which one is it? Attacks all enemies, will ignore 50% target, also increases the cooldown. Okay, if they go together and he doesn't fire it up himself when she dies, that's not too bad. That's not too bad for PvP, but yeah, on the end we do have kind of information about the kits. The kits are not looking too great, I think. Let me know your opinion. What do you think? I think they're not so great on the paper, but again, multipliers. If they go in there and they do 3 million per hit, then you're like, okay, they are something and I have some. We have to test it. I will keep you up on the test server what is going on. And that's everything you need to know about the fusion. Let me know what you think. Hansel will probably be covered in the Deck of Fate and that Prism Shard event. I think it's a Prism Shard event, and there you can probably get it right there. And yeah, that's everything. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't done already, and yeah, have a nice day.